Now, depending on how good of a typist you think you are or are not, okay, literally we can set this up so you don't have to type in anything other than you will be commenting and uncommenting things. So I don't know with each one of you if you'd rather type or if you'd rather watch or whatever. All right, but this is how I'm going to do this so I don't have to redo a lot of typing. Okay, I'm going to come down here to line 7 and I'm going to start putting this in like a comment right there. I'm going to go down to the very bottom, which is line 234, and I'm going to end the comment. All right. So now everything is up through, from line 8 through the rest of the file has all been commented out. So what I'm saying makes sense? All right. So now you may or may not have heard of the operator that's called type of, but type of tells you what you're working with. So if it's a number, it'll say number when you put type of. If you put a string in there, it'll say string, etc. So look at the first example, because both the example on line 1 and the example that's on line 4, they both create a new string. They both create a new string, and both strings say hello world. The difference is, with the first one, it's literally created as a string. The second one is created as a string object. So again, it's this wrapper or this syntactic sugar, so to speak, that's been put around it. So again, if you grab just these first 2 lines here and you copy them to the clipboard, and then you go in like I told you, so I want you to open up your console in here. All right. So again, if your console is not open, then you're going to have to open an HTML file and go down to inspect. And when you do that, you should be able to find the console over here. So notice if I put that in, nothing happens until I hit enter. Then it says it was a string. So it's telling me the type of object that was put in there was a string. And if I go and look at the next one, so if I do the exact same thing for the other one, and I put this in, you'll notice now it says an object. Who cares? There are certain methods that are available to strings that are not available to objects. There are certain methods that are available to objects that are not available to strings. All right, so this shows when you create a new variable by using new, you are making it an object. All right, so even if I said this, watch this once. You don't have to type in this, but I'm going to say here, try it down here. Let age equal 10. All right, nothing to that. So console dot log type of age, and it says it's a number, what you think it would be. But if I do again, if I say let legal age equal new number, and I put in there, let's say 21, like that. Now if I say console.log and I put in legal age, no, it still says it's a number, but it's showing that basically it's an object. All right? And you'll notice in the first case, it didn't have any properties. There's nothing associated with it. But these are properties that are associated with the number object. All right? And prototype and primitive, all right, prototype is going to hopefully make a little bit more sense as we go on in here. All right? All right. Now let's look at the next one, and let's look at what's good and what's not so good about these. So where I've got that commented out, I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to go all the way down to, in mine, down to line 40. I'm going to put the commenting back in again. Okay? So I want to explain what's going on here. This is going to go a lot faster because you're not going to be typing. All right? But if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm using a prototype right there. That's what they showed in here. So every time I create a new person, that person has a first name, that person has a last name, that person has a phone number. But since I'm using the prototype the way that this is right now, for this get info, which is just going to put their name and then their phone number, I've got to write one for each person. So I need to write a get info for person 1. I need to write a get info for person 2. So if you imagine if I had even, a class with 15 or 20 people, that's kind of a pain to do that. Are there better ways? Yes, we're going to look at them in just a minute. But the idea is this is using the prototype method. We're going to extend that in just a minute. So and we're going to highlight this in just a minute, but if you look here, if I do console.log person 1, it should show me all of that information. Does that make sense? I mean, that's probably what you'd think. This should show me Jane. This should show me Doe. This should show me 3332211. And this should show me Jane space Doe. And then on a new line, phone with the phone number. And then we do the same thing with John Doe. Does that make sense? So notice, all I'm going to do is, for now, is I'm going to highlight lines 8 through 24. I'm going to copy them to the clipboard. I told you this the other day. You may or may not have remembered. You can see I'm already getting down to the bottom of my screen, but if I come in here and type in console.clear, it clears my console screen. All right? So now I'm going to put this in. Now, nothing magical is happening. You'll notice it just says undefined. But I now have this in here. So just to show you this, you don't have to put this in, but if you would please copy those lines, like it was 8 to 24 or whatever I said it was. So copy all of the information for const proto-person1 and const proto-person2, not the console log shift. All right? So if you would please, after you do that, look up on the screen here. If I say console.log and I say proto-person1, that's not what I want. So I say proto-person1 and I hit enter. Look what I get. It's showing me right now that this is a person. And right now, this person has these 4 keys: first name, last name, phone, and get info. All right? And it has these 4 values of those keys: Jane, Doe, 3332211, and then notice I can open this up and it shows me the stuff that's available in here. It doesn't actually show the function itself, but those are the different components that make up the function, that I could conceivably print anything on there that I wanted. All right? So now that we've got those in there, I'm going to do another console.clear again. All right, and I'm going to jump back into this one. And now I'm going to grab everything on mine from lines 26. I'm going to just do them. There's a lot of console logs here, so I'm going to do 5 at a time. So I'm going to grab these for person 1. Okay, I'm going to copy them to the clipboard. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to paste it in. Now nothing happens till I hit enter. Now you can see all this stuff. There's person 1, there's the first name, there's the last name, there's the phone, and there's the get info. Does that make sense? Now again, this is done really simplistically, and what I mean is we only have 3 properties, we only have 1 method. But you could expand this to make it as big as you wanted and put in as much or as you want or as little as you need. All right, then I'm going to do the same thing for the next one right here. So in mine, it's lines 32 through 36. I put them in, I hit enter, and it's the same type of information. But whereas the first one was Jane Doe, this is now John Doe. All right, and you'll notice I can expand this. Anytime there's an arrow there, it means it can be expanded. So what's happening here is it's creating a prototype object for me. In fact, when you open up the prototype, you'll notice it's got a lot of different things that are in here. Most of these things that are in here are not being set, but they could all, any or all, could be conceivably set if I wanted them to. All right, I'm going to clear the console again. And I'm going to jump back into my code. And now I told you this before, but now you're going to see it. I'm going to show both. So notice it's object here. Remember, object is the super one, so to speak. It's the one on top. And I'm asking for the values of proto-person1. So that should give me Jane, Doe, 3, etc. All right. And then I'm asking for the keys. And it wouldn't matter if I used number 1 or 2. That should give me first name, last name, phone, and get info. All right. You'll notice if I copy those, come over here and paste them in, and hit enter, there they are. So in the first case, it's showing me these are the 4 values. And in here, it's showing me, and these are the 4 keys. All right. All right. Now, this was to show you right here. I just want to show you this, that as soon as we put this in, what happens is when it hits line 46, the system goes and it looks for either a class called proto-person, or in our case here, a function called proto-person. And it runs all of the code immediately underneath that. So for instance, if I change this from console log to new person created, and if I added there, you don't have to, but I'm going to say console.log, please enjoy. All right, kind of stupid, but just so you get the idea. And I'm going to save. Whoops, no. And now I'm going to grab this code right here, all of that, and paste it in here. And you see what happens. So I could run whatever I wanted. Now that was more or less the way that this object-oriented stuff started. All right, was by using these prototypes. All right, and jumping back over to here. Now, this is redone, as it says, with a constructor. All right. Now, when you look up on the screen here, if you notice, you'll notice I commented this stuff here out. All right. And it's commented out. It didn't have to be. If it was not commented out, all right, then what's going to happen sooner or later is this is going to look really bloated. If I have enough methods in here, it's going to get real long. So what they decided to do was, after what most people did was, in their constructor right here, they declared and set all their variables, but then with their methods, they put them outside. So it's the name of the class dot prototype dot the name of the method equals function, and then whatever it is you want it to do. Does that make sense? All right, so I'm going to grab everything that you see here in lines 49 through, in fact, let's put one more line in here just so you can see it. I'm going to put in a new line here, line 58, that just says console.log, and I'm going to put in here proto-person. Like that. All right, so I put in console.log proto-person. I'm going to highlight all of these lines through line 58, copy them to the clipboard, come back into here, paste them in, and hit enter. All right, and notice what it has in here now. All right, Now it is showing me, oh look, this is a function. You can see the f that's there. And it's saying this is what's happening in the function. All right? And again, this is not gee whiz type of stuff. I'm just trying to show you where it started and where it's evolved to. All right. So jumping back, now I want to come in and I want to add some more. Now, Gabriel had asked before, when we talked about this and we said, should we be doing some validation? Kind of implying that, yeah, we should. Well, here I put some in. So notice if I get info, there's nothing to validate. I'm just returning some stuff. That's returning the first name, the last name, and the phone number. Here, we're just returning the first name and the last name. But here, we're writing a couple different functions. The first one here, to allow us to change a person's last name. All right? So, we call it change last name, and we do come in here and we say, if it's equal to the empty string, don't do it. Otherwise, do it. Does that make sense? And I was really bad here. I probably should have been using semicolons at the end, but I just don't know why. I was kind of on a roll and didn't do it. Then we're doing the same thing with the phone. Now this one's a little bit more tricky. And what do I mean here? Well, notice we created a regular expression that said all phone numbers must be 3 digits, a hyphen, 3 digits, a hyphen, and 4 digits. All right, like 3 digits for the area code, hyphen, 3 digits for the exchange, and then 4 for the last part. And I've got a thing here called valid phone that I set to true. I'm assuming the phone number is valid. If the number that I pass in does not match that pattern, I set valid phone to false, and I've got this variable that I'm creating inside of here called revised phone. I set that to false because I didn't revise it. All right? But if valid phone is true, then I change the number. So the idea is I want to be able to come in here and provide a person with a new phone number or a new last name. We could come in and write routines for everything. All right? I'm assuming their first name isn't going to change. And not trying to sound sexist, but it's typically a woman who changes her name. That said, my brother, who literally can't stand one of his brother-in-laws, he got married and he changed his last name to his wife's name. I've never heard that before. But he didn't like his last name and he liked hers. So, I guess it happens. So, I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to go up all the way to line 60, whatever yours is, because I added that other line. And I'm going to highlight all the way through down to here, where it says const proto person 1. So for me, it's lines 60 to 90. Nothing's going to print when I do this. Did you all hear me? All I'm doing is I'm creating the class and I'm creating the methods via using prototypes. So they're prototypal, whatever it is, methods. All right, so I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. I'm going to again go back over to here, paste it in, but when I hit enter, all I get back basically is, basically nothing was returned. Okay, so if I come down here, there's nothing. All right, so I'm going to clear again. And now let's look at this. So I'm creating 2 new people. Each person has, each person there has a first name, a last name, and a phone number. If you notice, and I didn't notice this until I'd done it, both people's phone numbers are in the wrong format. Remember, it's supposed to be number, but where we're actually creating the class, not in this method here, but in the constructor part, we're not checking that. All right? We could, but we're not. You're going to see that in just a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in here 222-333-. You can put any numbers you want in. It doesn't matter. All right? But so what we're doing in here is we're saying create a new person called proto person 1, and then log out their info. Then we're going to call get info. Then we're going to call get full name. All right. So I'm going to highlight these 4 lines, copy them to the clipboard, come back over into here, paste them in, and hit enter. All right. And you'll notice up here, it's basically telling us, oh, your thing, it's a proto person. All right. And it's got a first name, it's got a last name, and it's got a phone number. But again, under prototype object, there's still a lot more stuff. Notice now, most everything is filled in. All right. Because we went in and we added more methods, prototypal or whatever they call them, methods. All right. Now that we've done that, I'm going to clear my console again. And just to show you, I made another one. Okay, so I had Jane Doe, so I made John Doe here. And it's going to look very similar, other than the phone number is different and Jane is now John. But other than that, when you look in here, you'll notice that it looks pretty much the same as it did before. All right? All right, now is where it starts to change. So I'm going to jump back again into my code, and notice what I put in here. All right? Valid last name change. As long as there's something in those double quotes, I'm not checking to even make sure it's alpha. I could have put 127 in there, and that's your new last name, which might be stupid, but all I'm checking for is the absence of something. So in the first case, this should change, I think it was Jane Doe's, so her name should now become Jane Jones. Does that make sense? Person 2, we're leaving it empty, so that shouldn't change. Now, in person 1, this thing that says, whatever we called it, I don't remember, like revised last name, here it should be true, and here it should be false. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. I don't know if it'll allow me to do that much at a time. Console can kind of work kind of squirrely. All right, so there they are. And we can expand those, but I'm not going to because I want you to see this. All right. So what did it do? She's now Jane Jones. So that worked. And the revised last is set to true the way it should be. Since we passed in nothing for John Doe, his name did not change, and the revised last went to false, or was set to false. All right. All right. Then we've got some stuff with the phone number, and I'm going to highlight all of this, but let's look at it before we do it. All right. The first one is valid. So for person 2, this should change John Jones's phone number, which when we set it up here, we set it to 222-333-2211. It should now be 333-444-8888 when we log it out. Then we went back to Jane Jones now, I think it is, and we tried changing her phone number. We put nothing in there. So it should not change, and that revised phone should be set to false. Then we try it again, but we leave off the area code. So again, it should fail the validation. So these two should both come up and not change, and the revised phone should be set to false in each case. So I'm going to copy that. I don't know if I grabbed it or not. So I'm going to grab it, copy it to the clipboard, go back into here, into there, into here, and paste it in, and hit enter. So you'll notice, again, John Doe's was changed, and the revised phone is set to true. Jane Jones's was not changed, and it's set to false. That's when we left it blank. And here when we left off the area code, it still was not changed, and it still is false. So what, the rationale behind showing you all this was I want to make sure that you do realize, all right, especially when you start working with stuff where you're the server. When you start doing server-side stuff, sooner or later, and it's going to be sooner, you're going to be working with forms or something like them when somebody is going to be inputting something where they can, leave something off. So if I want to be able to, bam, you hit the submit button, and I wanted to immediately to be able to go out to a database, and I have said that in my database, let's say it's MySQL, which is really strict with its rules, and I said we've got a field called H, and it's a numeric field, and you accidentally put in your 24. You put 24, but you hit the letter H accidentally. That should blow up because you put a non-numeric character in there. So we want to write our code that's going to test that and make sure if that happens, we don't put, we could have done in here, we didn't, but what we could have done in here is we could have gone in and we could have put default values. All right, and a lot of people do that in their code. They put in default for things. That way, if something is, if the user, if you go at it with the mentality, hey, it's not if, it's when the user's going to screw it up. Seriously. All right? And you've got to know your audience. If you're writing a website for little kids, they're going to screw it up because they're going to be in a hurry. If you're going to write it for old people, they're going to screw it up because they don't have the eyesight anymore. It's just going to happen. All right? So this is yet another way. Now, when we do this, look at this. This is another way that you can do this. All right? What you're going to see in a few minutes, just like you do in Java, instead of using the word call, we're going to use the word super. And the word super means that you want to go up to the parent. That's what this means. In English, this is saying, okay, I'm making a constructor for this prototypical employee. Prototypical employee, it's like, what are you talking about? All right, well, this is a brand new class, for lack of better words. It's not really a class, but it's a brand new prototype. And all employees have a first name, they all have a last name, they all have a phone number, and they all have an employee number. That should make sense. But what we're saying is, to handle the first name and the last name and the phone, that's part of the person class. So call the person constructor for that. And you've got to pass the word this in there because that passes the object itself in. That's not the way it's done, for example, in Java. Now, what's left? The employee number. I have to handle the employee number myself. So what I'm saying is, hey, this right here basically is saying that proto-employee is a type of proto-person. It is a proto-person. Since it is a proto-person, I'm going to let the proto-person handle the first name, the last name, and the phone number by calling their constructor. So what's left? What's left is the other field, which is the employee number. I'm handling that myself. All right? And there can be any mixture of this that you need there to be. Now, typically, and it's virtually always going to be like this, first, you're going to have the parent. And guess what? You could, as we go down further, you could even have another class that extended this one. All right? And this is, I think Angie will tell you, we did some of that stuff when we first started out in the Java class. If you remember, we did a fairly complex payroll program, all right, where we went down a few levels, all right? So, now notice right here I've got do not add this until error below show runs, okay? So, I made a bunch of changes, so I'm not sure if this is going to work. I want it to fail, all right? So, I'm going to run this right here. So I'm going to highlight just those lines that function right there. You can put the comment into. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to put in that, and I'm going to come back to here. There will not be any output because I have not done a console.log or anything. I have not told it to output anything. Then I'm going to jump back into here. All right. Now I'm going to go in, and I'm going to try to call. All right, notice it says here, should result in an error. See this? Now, when I do this, I'm going to grab these two lines. Here I'm instantiating a new proto-employee object called emp1, and I am passing everything. I'm passing in a first name, I'm passing in a last name, I'm passing it in a phone number in the right format, and I'm passing it in an employee number. All right, so that should work, and I should be able to log it as well. Let's see. Hit enter, log it, no errors. That's good. It made the new thing. Now, here's the problem with prototypes. Look on the screen, please. I'm now going to attempt to call this. The get info right there that you see, this is not part of a proto-employee. It is instead part of a proto-person. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right, so I'm going to attempt to run this. This should give me an error. Oops. I want that. I want this. There we go. And it says emp1.getInfo is not a function because it knows from the parent, it knows about its data members or its properties. It doesn't know about its methods because of the way we added them with the prototype thing. So as it shows right here, what we have to do is we have to add this line. Before you add it, just take a look at what's here. All right. This says basically, hey, for the prototype, for an employee, go in and grab also everything that's in the prototype for a person. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to copy that line. For me, it's line 130. Yours might be different. But I'm going to copy that in, and I'm going to hit enter. Nothing magical happened right there. All right. But when I go back again and I grab that line that failed before, this one that says emp1.getInfo, it should now succeed. It's still saying it's not a function. Oh, why would it do that? Well, there's a reason that it might. Let's look. Let me look up here. First thing to do is look and see, did I add getInfo? That's right there. emp1.getInfo. Let me look. All I can think of is it is a problem somehow that I screwed up with naming. I don't think I did. See, what I did originally is with all these names, this was just called employee, etc., but I put proto in front of the ones that were prototypes. And when I did that, I broke a lot of my own code. I should have made a copy, but I didn't. All right, so let's take a look and see, figure out what the problem is. Function. Change phone. Prototype. Get info. That actually should work. Not sure why it's not. So let me try a different one. Should be able to try any of these. I said I'm not sure why it's not working. But my guess is if that one didn't work, then none of them will work. So I'll have to go back and look at it because, like I said, they all worked this morning. It doesn't help us at all now, but it's not picking it up. I'll have to look and see if I can figure out why. All right. And I'll do that as soon as we get done with the rest of this. All right. Do not do this until after the above has been run locked. Well, let's try putting in this line and see if that fixes it. I don't know why that would, but still doesn't like something. All right. I promise as soon as we finish with this, I'm going to take a look at it, see if I can figure out what the problem was. All right, that's the end of the prototypical stuff. Here's the class stuff. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but to me, this is much more straightforward. All right, so look at this. Now again, I'm just showing you this just so you see it. If we were writing this, I'm going to remove all of it in just a second. If we were writing this in Java, we would say here, public class person, and here, instead of the word constructor, we'd say public class person. Other than that, it would be exactly the same. So again, the transition that you guys are going to make from going from one to the other should be hopefully fairly seamless. All right. And I don't know if you agree, but I mean, a lot of this is quite a bit different than what you had last semester, okay? And the reason I'm mentioning that is it's going to be interesting for James and for Nick to see if they have problems with this. All right. So I can go ahead and create this. And what I'm going to do is not only am I going to create this, but I'm going to highlight all the way through the console log. So I'm going to highlight all of that, copy it to the clipboard, go back to here, paste it in, and hit enter. And you can see I made a new employee. All right. And I call the constructor. So again, when the constructor was, this was instantiated, this line right here that says const class person equal new class person with a Tom Green, etc. All right. Tom became the first name, Green the last name, 988, etc. became the phone number. Same kind of way we did it before. And again, we can open this up and you can see everything that's in there. All right. It's virtually identical to what we did before, but what we did before, that I think at least was a little harder, that's what's happening under the scene, under the covers, so to speak, for you to see this. All right. So in this case, what have we got here? Let's see. So that's it. Then we come in here and notice how we do this now. We can add the methods right into the class. We don't have to do them with prototype, etc. In fact, it's encouraged to do this, to do them like this. So now a person class, we're going to redo this. Before we had all this stuff at the beginning, but we didn't have the methods available to us. So now we will have the name, the get info, the get full name, the change last name methods, and the change phone method. And they're the same stuff. Plus, and I had some problems with this. This is another one I'm going to have to look at, was with this static thing. So we'll see if that works or doesn't work. All right. So I'm going to go here all the way to my line 158. And I'm going to go down all the way to my line 201 because there's not much to go in here yet. Copying that to the clipboard. I'm coming back into here and I'm just going to paste it all in. All right, and hit enter. Now again, I didn't have any log statements in there. But it also didn't give me any errors, which is a good thing. All right. So now I can go back in. You can do this on your own. You can watch me do it. Just basically running the same types of stuff that we did before. And now notice what I'm doing. I'm extending this. So again, we're using the word extends. We're not the way we did it with the prototype before. You've got class followed by the name of the class. So the class child class extends parent class. Did you hear me? And now with the constructor, we use the word super. Remember, this will not print out anything. We are not creating an object. We are creating a blueprint for what an employee should look like. So I'm going to copy that. I'm again just going to paste that in here and hit enter. And again, I get nothing because I didn't say for anything to be logged. All right. Then we come down to here. Now we are creating a new person. Let's just look at the rest of this. There's only about 10 lines. So we're creating a new employee. In fact, I'll bust this up over multiple lines. So you already can tell the first name will be William. The last name will be Brennan. Whoops. The phone number will be 222-333-1111. And the employee number will be 22223. And then we log that. All right. Now, as it says here, this should not work. This should have worked, but it didn't. It will give me the chance to go back and talk to you about it, though. So let me grab these. And notice it says, this should not work. All right. So I'm going all the way down to my line 218. Right there. And I'm copying everything to the clipboard. And you notice I get an error. It says, can't call me directly is not a function. And you look at that and you go, wait a minute. Can't call me directly. Didn't we do that up here someplace? There it is. But since we made it static, this is unlike other languages. In JavaScript, an object cannot call a static method. Only the class itself can call a static method. Remember I said how when you write static methods and static variables, they apply or they belong to the class. They don't belong to the objects. That's proof of that right here. So that didn't work. Now, I thought this would work right here because I'm saying class employee, and that was this. Where did we put the class employee? There. Class employee. So that's a class. Dot, followed by the name of our static method. I thought that would work, and it didn't. That one I knew I was going to have to look at, but I didn't have time before class today. Oh, there it did work. Okay, great. See it? It says, all I put in that function was just an alert that said example of a statically called function. But when I tried calling it from the object, it gave me an error saying it didn't exist. When I tried calling it from the class, it worked. All right. So I thought I was going to have to fix one problem, and now I have to go back in and fix a different problem. Now, what's left in here, you can try these yourselves, but notice, again, I went in, and now I can get rid of this comment, but I made some examples. The get full name should work. I should be able to change the last name because I'm passing something in. So when I grab this one, all right, this person's name, which was William Brennan, should now be William Bronson. All right, if this works. Hit enter, and there you can see it changed to William Bronson. All right. Then we come in, notice this should not work. Why shouldn't this work? Because again, I put nothing in for the phone. All right, so I'm copying that to the clipboard, trying that one. And you'll notice again, it did not change, and our revised last, we did revise that. That was from the last name when we did that. That's true, but the revised phone is false. All right. And then finally, the last couple that are in here, this should not work because we didn't put an area code in here. So this should look very similar to the output of the last one. So let me close this. I think I can close that, can't I? Good. And hit enter. And you notice these two look virtually the same. Because I made an attempt to change it here with nothing in there. And I made an attempt to change it here, but it was invalidly formatted because I didn't put the exchange in. Then finally, when I try it, this should work. And again, look on the screen if you would, please. Notice that currently William Bronson's number is 222-333-1111. After this, it is now 666-777-8888, and the field for revised phone is now true, where previously it was false. So again, the idea behind this, it's funny, we went through it in 20 or 30 minutes. It took me 2 hours to put all this stuff in, test it. No, that didn't work. Put this in, test it, etc. All right. Now, you're not experts on this. I'm sure as heck not an expert. But the idea was it gave you a little difference in the flavors between doing stuff using a prototype and doing it that's class-based. All right. Tomorrow we're going to do something similar, but it's going to be with functions. All right. And then Friday, the same. All right. And the hope is then I'm not going to give you any homework. This is the last day off next Monday that you're going to have till almost Thanksgiving, because the next one is November 11th for Veterans Day, and then 2 weeks after that is Thanksgiving. So I'm not going to give you any homework. But when we come back, we're going to be writing a bunch of stuff. We'll probably spend 2 days writing programs, and then at least a day on MySQL, and at least a day on NoSQL. I'm going to have you sign up for a NoSQL account. It's free. I've never gotten an email from them. They don't ask you for anything personal. No credit card, nothing like that. And there's different ways that you can do this. I'm going to use last semester what I tried to do with people. It was just Keegan, so it was just me and him. But with him, we tried running NoSQL, and we tried running it MongoDB from the command line. We got it to work, but it was a pain in the butt because we had to do a bunch of stuff. We were both out Googling stuff, and we had to combine stuff from different different posts and whatever. So we're going to just use something that's called Atlas, which is on the cloud. It's already out there, and it'll save stuff to the cloud for you. Plus, it's got an interface that's not only fairly intuitive, it's fairly GUI. So we're going to do that right away. All right. Then we're going to go in and I don't know, maybe what we'll do because I've got to get you into Node too. Maybe we'll just do a simple Node project and do it and literally throw in a very simple MySQL database. Then do another project, not the same one, a different one, and do that with the MongoDB database. All right. But like I said, we have to hopefully by no later than the end of next week, we have to be getting into Node. All right. Questions? All right. So you've got still like 2 hours. My hope is that these things that you turn in, your final version of this will be good. All right. Now let's say, okay, I already did it, Jeff. I turned it in. Everything's great. Not just good. It's great. All right. Well, if you want to do some reading, then again, you've got these now. There's different places you can go out to. You can go out to FlavioCopes.com, and you can start looking through, on his ebooks. You can take a look at, because you've got these, I gave them to you the first day. You can look at, I would start with the Node.js one, then go to the Express, and don't even worry, but eventually we'll go to the React. And if you don't want to do that, again, you can go out to I think it was goalkickers.com, and there's other sites too. That doesn't look like that's it.
Goal Kicker.
Kicker? Okay, thank you. Thanks. And notice amongst other ones here, they have one for Node. This is a big book. I'm just warning you if you start looking through that one. So you can come down here and you can download that. They've got a MongoDB, which is 60 pages, a MySQL, which is 100 pages, a Node, which is 300 pages, and they don't have one on Express, I don't believe, but we're going to be looking at that too. They do not. So you've got stuff that you can look at. And if you're like, hey, that's fine. I'd rather watch videos. All right. So there's a couple that I would recommend then. All right. And the first is, again, I've shown you this already, so let me go to YouTube. Not YouTube. And you can go out to Web Dev Simplified. He's got, he has all sorts of Node.js videos. If I go to here and I right mouse click, or no, sorry, do a Control F, and I type in Node, all right, I know it says it doesn't find it. Believe me, it's going to find them. There's a whole bunch of Node things in here. Or, if you want to, again, backing up one, being on YouTube here. I know because I've looked at these already.
All the time.
It's funny, he and I have actually been corresponding, Kyle and I, because somehow I tried to sign up for one of his classes, and he gave me 50% off because I'm an instructor. You guys could get it too, but it wasn't cheap. It was 150 bucks. I usually pay 10 bucks a course. When my wife saw that bill, she was not happy. And she was more unhappy because I tried to do it under my ranked email, and it didn't work. So I put in my charter email. And guess what? He charged me twice. So instead of having 50% off, I got charged full price. So I sent him an email, and he came back and he said he was really sorry and stuff. Well, it's fine. He said he already fixed it. So we'll see. I'll see when I get the next bill. So the other one, again, Brad Travers, he has got a Node.js. I believe he's got a crash course. Most of his crash courses are anywhere from 40 minutes long to an hour and a half long, like this one. We're going to learn Node. We're going to learn Express. We're going to learn React. All right? I mean, you could start taking a look at those. And even though like this, it says it's 2 years ago, the stuff has not really changed in the last several years. All right? So hopefully you got enough to work on, take a look at, etc.